Do you ever notice a certain way your parents or friends behave or act and think, hey, even I have this exact same habit? To the common man, this may seem like a habit that you simply picked up from someone else. But when you start picking apart your own psyche and personality and compare your actions to those you have interacted with in your life, you start realizing that your personality is nothing more than the lump sum of interactions and habits that you have picked up from others, with very few parts that could be originally attributed to you. For example, the reason I have a habit for walking at least 100 steps after a satisfying meal is because my grandmother used to do that. She never explicitly told me to follow in her footsteps, literally or figuratively, but because I was young and impressionable, I caught on to that habit, which I only realized when someone questioned me about it. Thus, we don't tend to realize this, but the inherent thing that we call personality isn't so much inherent as it is inherited. Inherited from the people around us, from the people we have interacted with, are interacting with, or will eventually interact with. Our personality isn't really ours, which in a way contributes to the illusion. This illusion makes us believe that we have the right to choose how we act or feel in a particular situation, which is not entirely true. The only time we tend to think about our small habits and quirks is when we are questioned about it. And even then, some people cannot seem to understand why they behave how they behave. Now, most of you would be wondering why I'm talking about personality in a speech about freedom. Well, it's because our personality is largely dependent on external factors, which we pick up from all corners and walks of our lives. This is why we are so easily influenced by the digital age that we live in. He who controls the medium of expression of information controls the way people think and act. Because in our fast-paced life, we don't have the time to think about all our actions and decisions in depth and ponder about why we do what we do. This allows the people behind the scenes to control us by feeding misinformation and biased news. The more the digital age expands, the more are the number of ways in which we are fed fake news. This is exactly how we get entrapped in this web of consumerism and consumption, where we are presented with so much data that we can't identify the true from the false. This web is so intricate and massive, but we don't really have free will in even choosing our day-to-day essentials. Firstly, we are presented with so many brands, companies, and products that even choosing a toothbrush has become a stress-inducing task, at least for me. Because if I know that there exists something better than the product I have and is readily available, I cannot sit back and waste that opportunity. A bit dramatic for choosing a toothbrush, aren't I? But this is exactly the aim of the brands manufacturing these products. The more dissatisfied we are with our choice, even though it would have been perfect for us had we stuck by it, the more we choose that other supposedly perfect product, and the more we keep buying and experimenting with new unnecessary goods, the more we get tangled in this web. Secondly, no matter how much we try to be responsible for our ways of living and making sure we avoid certain companies or products that promote or promulgate unhealthy or irresponsible ways of manufacturing and sourcing products, we're never able to escape that web, since it's all around us. Almost all the food companies you find in a local grocery store, by which I mean your kirana shops, not the gourmet overpriced grocery store that only 1% of our city can actually afford to live by day to day, can be traced down to just 10. Yes, just 10 companies around the world own and control so much of the international food consumer market that it's appropriate to assume that these 10 companies are behind whatever product you are consuming. So no matter how hard you try, you cannot escape this web and its influence over you. This is not limited to just consumer goods, by the way. The media and the tech we use is, in the end, owned by a handful of companies. These companies are regularly and judiciously amassing great wealth in the form of raw data. This raw data helps these companies filter and classify us into bubbles, through which they can subtly but surely influence us and our thoughts by manipulating our external factors and forms of communication through videos, photos, or articles, specially designed to attract our attention and influence us in the way they want. In the hands of these corporations, we are nothing but pieces of clay waiting to be molded into the ideal consumer. We usually take these articles' word for the news, because we never encounter any sort of resistance or contradictory article that would tell us otherwise. Not because what we think is right, but because that's what we are made to believe. The more choices we have, the less satisfied we are with our decision. So we tend to look for multiple ways to validate our opinions, thereby cementing that our way of thinking, whether fundamentally right or wrong, is the word of God. Since the only news available to us is that which is filtered and doctored through large amounts of data collected by several private and government establishments. After all, it is called big data for a reason. This makes me wonder just how truly free our real freedom is. A term coined by the political philosopher and economist Philippe Van Parijs. He expands on the notions of negative freedom, which in simple words means that just being allowed to do a task doesn't constitute our freedom, but the means to carry out the task is necessary in order for us to achieve real freedom. Keeping this ideology in mind, we cannot really say that we as individuals are truly free. Even if we aren't prevented from acting on our own will many times, we don't actually have the liberty to do so. I would like to part ways by asking you, the audience, a simple question. Do you really think that you are truly free?